Darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour is close at hand. Creatures crawl in search of blood to terrorize y'all's neighborhood. And whosoever shall be found.
Hey everyone, and welcome to a very spooky episode of the Nerdy Up North podcast. It's the Nerdy Podcast, and it's hosted by two Northern nerds. I'm one of your hosts, Sam.
And I'm the other host, Paul.
And we are joined by two special Kellys.
Yes, so we've got the Kellys on with us this time, Kelly Moon and Kelly Young Hon. If you're a fan of the podcast, you'll have seen one of the Kellys who was outrageous in the comedy episodes, how you say that.
One of my favourites.
I think she nearly broke us with some of her picks and just general behaviour. So we had to get her back on. And one of the, I would say, key members of the Nerdy Up North group who helped me start the Nerdy Up the North group as well. And one of the admin of the group is the lovely Kelly Moon, who is one of the spookiest people I know. And I'm saying that as the nicest thing I can possibly say about her.
He always brags about you. He's like, well, Kelly's been to Salem. Okay.
I know someone to Salem.
Exactly.
Always jealousy. So, yes, so if our two guests would like to tell us about each other, I don't know who wants to go first.
Kelly Moon, you go ahead, because I've done this rodeo before.
I don't know, where do I start, really? I love Halloween. Obviously why I'm here. This is just normal interior. It's not like I'm not going all out. Cobwebs are real because I'm busy renovating. I'm just like really looking forward to it today. I've like loved horror since, I can remember. Always been into spooky stuff since I can remember. I was like one of those freaky little kids who saw dead people and all that kind of stemmed from there, I think. And I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. It's definitely with what the topic of podcast today as well, with you seeing dead people is right bang on the money with our topic of choice. We're going to talk all about ghosts, like ghost stories, ghosts in movies, ghosts in TV shows. Even if our participants have had any experiences with ghosts and their beliefs. So before we start, I know Sam always likes to get a little disclaimer out, so I'll let her get that out the way so she feels better about it.
Me disclaimer is wet.
Oh,
because
dear.
I put my drink on it and now the words have all smudged. So all I don't know, I just like to point this out at every beginning, especially when we're talking freely and openly, and just to say that, all of our opinion, everything we're talking about today is all based on our own opinions. If you don't like it, it's fine. Just come and have a conversation with us on Facebook or in the comments. More than happy to talk with you. But what we won't have is toxicity in nerdom and fandoms. Not happening. Not on my watch. So with that being said, let's talk about ghosties and ghoulies. Ghosties. There we go. I sang for this episode.
Beautiful.
But it's one of them subjects as well, because I'll hold my hands up. I haven't done as much research on this, so I've thought about it. But when you look back, I
was just sorry, Paul. I keep trying to talk.
No, it's fine. Well, I was just going to say with the topic of ghosts and as such, it leads into pretty much every type of facet of storytelling. Like even like general nice stories, there's ghosts, bad ghost stories, there's horror stories, there's fun ones, there's even like Casper the Friendly Ghost, for God's sake. It's like in every single walk of life that this type of tale or story kind of blends in. So it's quite interesting when you think about it, how many type of incarnations or spooky type of tales ghosts are involved in.
Yeah.
Even local history as well.
Praise came to say hi.
Hello.
Dinah's sister.
Oh, so cute. What I was going to say is that we haven't done as much research as Kelly has. Because Kelly has a notebook.
I always have No, never changed, Kelly, from the teaching days where everything's planned to a fucking nth.
I still blag it.
To my young Kelly.
It'd be quite interesting to find out, like I say, where, like I say, your starting points were with this type of like genre, shall we say? Because I know we're all horror fans, but what was your first experience like relating to ghosts, or finding out about ghosts, or even being scared of ghosts?
I actually have it.
All right.
Go on then.
The world's greatest ghosts.
Wow.
Right.
This book, right, on the bookshelf, because I've got older brothers and sisters. My sister was 8 years older than us. My brother is 12 years older than us. So basically, I got their cast-offs, whether it be Commodore 64s or music albums. All right. These were on the bookshelf. We had The World's Greatest Blunders, which was shit. Shit happens. But World's Greatest Ghost. And I remember this was like forbidden fodder. I knew I was to read this, but I read it, and it was a point, right, where I couldn't sleep at night because I thought the curtain was going to wrap around my neck, like in the end of Haunted.
Yeah.
But this, I remember when I was at primary school.
Looks so old as well, like the yellow pages.
Just, I'll have a look at so it was 1988.
Right.
All right.
Wow.
1988. So it is a bit old school, but I remember when I was at St Anne's, and I wanted to do when I was 7 a project on Fred Rose West, and they said, I don't think you should do that. I was at primary school that was for Catholics. But so I basically copied like a load of like ghost stories for a project, and like drew little illustrations like to accompany them. Obviously, I didn't win first prize because, you know, ghosts and stuff in the Roman Catholic way. It's just ghosts don't exist. What are you talking about? But if anything, it did.
But no, that's quite interesting. Like I say, that book, like you don't think like the experience, because I know like there's a lot of ghost stories, and I remember not reading the books, but going to the local library in Ryop, like when I was a kid, and used to go around the normal, like let's say the kids section. And when my mum wasn't looking, I used to sneak out and go looking at the adult books, like the horror sections, not to read physically, but just to look at the covers, because they were always more interesting. And some of the ghost stories and ghost book like always had the skulls and all like the phantoms and stuff. It always quite kind of drew to us. But I think my first experience is a little bit more innocent. It was probably a cartoon known as Casper the Friendly Ghost, which was always quite fun, and it was always entertaining as well. Then leading into that, I think it was Scooby-Doo was the one that piqued me interest more over than all, and not just the normal Scooby-Doo cartoons, but I think it was the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, which had the voiceover from Vincent Price as well. And then
nice,
led into other things, which like I say, grew my love of horror as well. But I remember Ghosts being probably one of the big starting points for my getting into all things that go bump in the night.
What about Kelly Moon?
For me, God, I remember like being a little kid and just telling me like classmates and stuff, ghost stories and stuff. So the amount of times I used to, like, my mum would get in trouble for scaring the other kids. Because there was like witches and there was always ghosts. I was the one who would start off like the kids looking in the mirrors and stuff. It was always me. But for me, it was weird because I had a lot of like ghostly experiences when I was a child. So. But like I used to like, obviously I had an imaginary friend, but my imaginary friend actually turned out to be my uncle who died when he was a baby in pneumonia. So at the time it was like my sister was only a toddler at the time. I mean, she was probably about a year old or something, but she couldn't walk. And I described, like, my uncle was called John. And I describe him saying he looks like Joanne, but he can walk and stuff, and his name's John. And like my mum was just so freaked out at the time. I must have been. Mum was must have been about 6-year-old. This is like 4.5 years between me and my sister. So yeah, I must have been about 5.5. And like there was things I knew what I shouldn't have knew. Because when he passed away, like it was never spoken about or anything in the family. Because it was that upsetting.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was probably one of my first experiences. Again, about the same age as well. My next door neighbour passed away during the night. She was like an elderly woman. And like when I went up for like breakfast in the morning, went downstairs and stuff, I was saying, "Oh, Jane came to say good night last night." And Mum's like, "Don't be silly. Jane's next door, blah, blah, blah." And she didn't. She died at 2 a.m.
Right.
So she came down and like...
I've gone really cold.
There's like, there was like loads of different... It's very creepy. So like, I mean, my mum's over the years told us loads of stories of when I was like young. So that's just a couple, you know, like it's good, strange.
So, yeah, good starting points there as well. So
that's a really good starting point.
What are you starting with?
No, I think like this is the actual podcast that's going to actually scare people as well. So well done.
Right? Mine's something we've talked about forever on here. Mine will always be Ghostbusters. That was my trope into ghosts. Wasn't scared of them because of that. But I did go to a Victorian primary school. So it was the Victorian style constantly everyone trying to, because it's so old, everyone's just trying to scare everyone. And we had like our library was old as well, and if we went to church that was even older, and it's just that was the thing, people just trying to scare each other. But I was never scared by them. It was something my mum always used to say to us, was they would never hurt you in life, so why would they hurt you in death? And it just that always stuck. Yeah, that just always stuck with us. So I can freak myself out. I did it the other night because I was convinced that somebody was walking around my living room, because I could hear shuffling, but I couldn't hear feet. It was like, you know, when a dress hits the floor and you can hear the dress moving. That's what it sounded like. And it happened twice. And I was like, yeah, I'm not staying in this room anymore. I freaked myself out.
Primary schools. I went to Southwick Primary School, and anybody like who went there, they'd know that the top field was actually just on, like the top play yard was just built on top of graves. So it just filled it all in rather than like getting excavating the graves. So we used to be playing like Tiggy and like, I don't know, Drunken Sailor and stuff when we were kids. And there's like gravestones popping out of the grass.
Jesus Christ.
Just tripping over graves.
Honestly, that, it wasn't so long back. It was only a few years ago that had to excavate it because they were rising.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's an interesting one.
I remember when I was at school, we were at St Anne's School in Pennywell, and I got myself a bit of a reputation of being into ghosts and that. And I remember, do you know the book fair where they give up cases?
Yes.
Nisha, I got a ghost hunter pack.
Right.
And people at school used to go to us, Kelly, you need to do an investigation in the toilets. Which
it was always the toilets, wasn't it?
Tell you what though, Kelly, I would watch that TV show. I would actually pay to watch that TV show. Need to get into Discovery Plus or something and get you on. That'll be interesting. But but no, again, I think everyone grew up in, like, say, the spooky thing, but I know growing up in Rye, it was always a little bit interesting when it comes to, like, say, spooky areas, because I lived at the area, right next to the old engine pumping machine, you know, the giant chimney. To the left of my house was Rye Cemetery, and to the right, if I crossed the field, was the old Cherry Knoll Asylum, the hospital. And when I was younger, I know, like I say, when my mum was younger, it was open and worked, but by the time, like say, I got my age, it was all closed down. And not saying I was right, but we used to know how to break into the old asylum, and like the old, because there used to be in like 3 parts. There used to be the bits that were still ongoing for people with mental illness and stuff, that was still there. The physiotherapy department was more further down, but the old like kind of like church area, the big building that I know it's gone now, but when you saw it, it just looked terrifying. And even like the grounds around it was full of fields, but there was a little bit around it that was always brown. Like even the grass that grew was brown. And we broke it. Yeah. It was like say an eerie experience, but when we went in, I'd say I'm one of these where if I see it, I'll believe it. And I'd say, but I know when you feel like you get that feeling. I've never known anything so quiet, like being inside, like not even like animals or things, just silent. And you're walking around this building, they still had the old padded room still there. That was still all there. They had the tables where they used to strap people down with the strapping, and like all the files cases were all ripped out and like files all over the floor. There was spray paint all the wall. Well, like kids have been in and done graffiti and stuff. But there was a giant swimming pool that had goldfish in, which sounds strange, but the goldfish were like about a couple of foot big because they'll grow to their experience. Yes. But apparently the security guards used to put them in one year and like I said, just kept feeding them, or they lived off the algae that lived there. But they were massive. But the thing that did terrify us when I was going down, because there was always rumours that there was tunnels underground there that used to lead from, because with it being in different sections, there was tunnels that used to go from one building to the other, and it also went all the way down to Ryabdean, like near the beach. And some people say that people escaped and used to commit suicide by jumping off the cliffs down there. But there was rumours as well, because I know when you grew up in a mining village, there was that they used to experiment them when they first opened up, like when the mentally insane used to go in, because it was a building for the criminally mentally insane when it first opened. Yeah. They used to do experiments, and when they died, the family didn't want the bodies or anything like that, so they used to bury them in the tunnels. So that was always rumoured to be there, and we never had the balls to try and get in there. I don't think I ever would, but it's just interesting because I know it's all been pulled down now, and there's actually houses getting built there now. So I wonder how much has been. I wonder how much has been.
I want to buy a house there when I went on that day.
But that was always a spooky thing because that was always a kid. Where as we become teenagers, we wanted to do more. I know it become very dangerous. Like there was a lot of asbestos, and people used to set fires in there, and it become really bad to get in. But I can still remember the feeling of being inside, just because you didn't hear a noise, and when you did hear a noise, it wasn't normal noises. I know I'm not making sense when I say that, but when you're hearing like it's not natural, like a natural noise, and it's coming from a building where you know for a fact nobody else is in.
You know, it's been created by something. It's not like a kind of the creaks and groans of like an old place.
It's definitely. But just going from room to room and seeing it and seeing what people must have experienced in it. I think with everything, you don't know how much the stories are real, but it's just interesting that you got to live in that history as well, like a little bit as well. That was always my experience. I wish I saw things I experienced in there, but I didn't. I just got that feeling, and I did break. I know it sounds sorry, but I did break in a number of times throughout my childhood. When we used to knock about and like say, because the football field was right next to the cemetery, so we had to cross through the cemetery to get to the football field when we were younger as well. So that was always interesting, but especially it was always fun during Halloween. Never had the balls to do like a Ouija board or anything in there. That would have been, I think,
missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think I would have had nightmares for the rest of my life, but that was always an interesting place to go to, especially when I was a kid. But that was my say teenage years, clambering about in all the asylums.
Here's a question. I mean, it's probably a dumb question given what we've already spoke about, but do you generally believe in the afterlife?
Oh yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I've not discounted it, but it's one of the things I'll when I say it, I'll believe it, but I've not seen it yet. So it's probably, I would never dispute anything or say someone I'll mock anyone for believing it. That's not just what I am, but I would say I'm a skeptic waiting to be proven, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I always think like if I experience something, I'll try and think of the logical explanation rather than saying straight away like, oh, like I think that was something supernatural or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like I try try and figure it out, but I've had that many like experiences now that some of the stuff you just can't explain at all. There is no logical explanation, where it's kind of more for believing rather than not.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's bizarre. I think it's always a good thing. It's a talking point, though, isn't it? It's always a good talking point. Everybody's got
definitely.
I think it's wrong to be closed-minded and to say, "Oh, it's all poppycock and bullshit and stuff like that." I think that's the wrong attitude to have. I was possessed by a little 90-year-old man there for a second, so that's fine.
Poppycock.
I don't know where that come from. Trust us, I have no idea.
Good word.
What I'm interested in as well, when was the first time that you were truly scared at either a ghost story or like say a version of a ghost?
First time scared.
Can you remember? Because I can still remember the first TV show I watched, and it still, like, I remember the feeling of being absolutely terrified because of it. And I watched it back not too long ago. It's cheesy as fuck now, but watching it at the time, I've never been so scared in my life.
Mine was when we were little. I had like a great auntie and uncle who lived down Torquay. Well, my uncle's he's like in his 90s now, but we used to always go down every year and go to visit them. And I remember I had to get put to bed early because everyone was going to start to watch a horror movie, and I was too little. I mean, I must have been about 4 at the time because my sister wasn't born. I think my mum was pregnant. My mum was pregnant with my sister. And I got put to bed, so I creeped downstairs, and they had, you know, like one of the glass doors, like the glass. So he's made little me, you know, like spying through the window like this, trying to get quiet, looking through, like watching the telly. But I started screaming, didn't I? Freddie. Oh. I think I got a smacked ass and sent to bed that time.
In true Northeast fashion, smacked ass and sent to bed.
Terrifying.
I've not done it again, but one I can remember that I don't know if you watched it, the TV show Ghost Watch.
Yeah.
I went to go and see Beauty and the Beast that night when it was on.
it was the first mockumentary type thing that I think was done at the time. I can't remember many, or I know a lot of since have come from it, but the way they filmed it and broadcast it was that it was real, and it was, I think it was only ever shown once on the BBC as well, because it was the most complained show that ever happened. I did watch it back a few years ago, and it is so weird and not well done. But I think back at the time, because it was like had like say Sarah Wood and Craig Charles, Sarah Green, that's the one. Sarah Green and Michael Parton, and you think Parky's involved? This is not going to be a send up. Parky's all serious and stuff like that. But the thing, and the ghost was called Pipes, I believe, because it was Pipes. It used to knock on the pipes that used to get. And
sounds like something of Red Dwarf, because with Craig Charles being involved, Pipes.
But I remember the scene that absolutely terrified us, because I know when you're kids, you all have your safe zones or places you go where you feel safe. And mine was, when I was scared, I used to go into the duvet and hide. And I remember the little girl saying, "Oh, why didn't you go to bed?" And goes, "Because Pipes gets me when I'm under the covers." And I just went, I literally couldn't go back to bed for about a week after that. But I can still remember it to this day, how scared I was watching it. And it's a simple, like, as I said, it's a simple tale. And when you watch it back now, there's so many elements that they used, which I think they've used in feature films since, like Paranormal Activity. I think quite similarities where you can see the ghost in the background. It's like what's not in your face, it's what's in the background that you notice quite more. But that was my big scary moment as a kid there.
I've got issue with Ghost Watch, right? I've got an issue, and I'll tell you this issue. It's one of the reasons why at one point I will divorce my husband for what he did to this, right? I don't know how it bypassed us. I never got to watch Ghost Watch. My mate, Ames, who's part of the bloody Nerdy Up North group, hey Ames, was saying, "You need to watch Ghost Watch," and I was just like, oh, it sounds class. I love ghosts, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to sit down and watch it. And Adam went, you know it's fake, didn't you?
Oh.
Right.
What's the fucking point watching it then? Oh, it's fucking fake. So that, I have watched it because of my tyrannical husband who just spoiled it for us. Do you not?
Oh.
No, I didn't pay. I watched it.
My husband did that with Twin Peaks.
I
I
would recommend you watch it though.
I'd never seen Twin. My husband did it with Twin Peaks. I've never seen it before, and he walks in and told us the whole ending of it.
Oh no!
I was on the first episode. I know.
What the fuck did I get out of it? Your face and your life's mission. You know what I mean? I've still got issues with that. I mean, it happened about 3 or 4 years ago, and I still haven't fucking forgiven for it.
You have to play the film, find something he might watch, and just ruin it for him. So that's the thing. So
I think I accidentally, unwittingly ruin his day on a daily basis. You know what I mean? I think I've got one up on him anyway. Really.
Bless you. What about you, Sam? What was the type thing that you got scared at?
Oh well, I've talked about this before on the podcast. The first thing that ever scared us was, because horror doesn't scare us, like Freddy doesn't scare us, Jason didn't scare us. I was just totally unfazed by them. Chuck a doll in the mix, changes everything, absolutely everything. My friend Haley, who always had everything, like everything. She always had like the most obscure horror, the obscure films, and she had Dolly Dearest. And my sister wouldn't have been alive at this time because I practically stayed in my parents' bedroom for about 2 months, maybe even 6 months. I actually don't even think I moved out until Michaela came. But I never owned dolls. I never had baby dolls. I don't do porcelain dolls. It's funny because we've just been talking off before we started about our mutual friend Nikki. She used to have in her bedroom a whole bloody line of porcelain dolls that used to go all the way around the side. And I used to stay there frequently. Honestly, it was, especially on a nighttime, if you're just watching the telly, when the light hits their face, that scares the bejesus out of us. And still, like, I'm still a little bit funny to this day. Like, I don't mind dolls. Like, my Star Wars dolls up there, like the first dolls I've ever owned, ever. But I don't actually, baby dolls, man. No.
Yeah. I'm just looking at. I'm looking at Kelly's in the background. I'm jealous of her Elvira. I can just make out the top leg.
Where is she? Oh, there she is. I see her.
I love that.
I would never have noticed that if you hadn't pointed it out, but now I kind of not look at it.
It's interesting that when you say with dolls and stuff, because like say that just always makes it like the creep factor a little bit more as well. Because I know there's been a resurgence in like say the doll, like say a horror or doll possession type thing with Annabelle and The Conjuring becoming.
She doesn't scare me. Oh, she's not going to go and get her, is she?
Well, my dad sent us multiple messages with this.
Oh
no,
you sort of thing.
Yeah,
he found it in the river when he was like seeing these crabs or something, and he thought I'd love it.
I get it. No, it's proper eerie, but no, if something like no, just don't know. Annabelle doesn't scare us.
Can you remember them clowns? Like
yes,
the porcelain.
Yes. And the heads used to rotate.
Them. Yeah, really creepy.
Yeah. My auntie still got one in its casing. Like, you know, the plastic casing that came in. It's still intact. And his head rotates. Like, what's that about?
I don't even
yeah, I remember. My auntie still got one of them. Like, no, I don't like stuff like that. But no, I was just saying the Annabelle doll does not scare us, only because when I didn't used to have eyebrows and I had like the full goth look, penciled eyebrows, we looked alike. So there's like, what can I be? I can't be scared at that look. If they did chucked in the Raggedy Ann doll, like the actual, if that was the doll they used, and I don't know if they couldn't because of, you know, she is a licensed like product, and that would have scared us more. Like generally that would have terrified us as opposed to what we got.
Yeah, that's a good point. Except when you go back to the history of the Warrens and stuff, when they show that Annabelle as a Raggedy Ann doll, again, I thought that was creepier than the doll that came out, because it was the effects they put on was overdone. They pushed it too far. Sorry?
It just came into my mind there. Sorry, I just completely. I was watching, I think it was Halloween 2 the other night, and there was a Raggedy Ann doll in the background.
All right.
Like the original Raggedy Ann. I was like, ooh, I'll have to remember that.
I've sat on a knee. There's a big massive one in, I don't know if she's still there anymore, but there was a big massive one in Point Orlando, and I sat on a knee. She's huge. Didn't know it back then, like that. She's haunted.
It was a little bit less creepy than the small one, but like even like I know there's a resurgence now in like the Chucky doll. That was always like say quite a big place. I know the TV shows just came out.
Yeah, I stayed away from him when I was a kid, and it was only because of obviously the Jamie Bulger story that went in with it. Like I stayed away from it. And then again, it's a doll. I wasn't that interested, but I watched them as an adult not that long ago, and honestly, absolutely adore them. I think they are so good, so funny, so like the story is fantastic. I don't even care that by the third one it's starting to get a bit but then like I haven't really followed it on from like the Bride of Chucky. So like,
I wouldn't go past anything further there. I don't think you need to see like the seed of the Chucky becomes like so outlandish and out there.
But the first one is just phenomenal. Like I'm glad I stayed away from it as a child because it honestly, dolls were just didn't like them at all. But as an adult, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. Really good film.
No, I'd say it's one of them staples in like movies and TV shows. It goes through basically the stages all the way through, like since I can remember. But I know out of the horror films, it's the one that they normally go back to, and it's the easiest one to do, and it's the scariest, I think, at times, because as you said, you don't know what's real and what's not real. Like even like say, I know my mum, she was fascinated and obsessed with Most Haunted when that went like in its heyday. I know it's still going now.
I still watch it a day. Honestly, some of the best episodes they've done is what they're doing right now, because they've stopped giving a shit. Yeah, they really have.
That was the other thing when they had the psychics on, because I know they don't have the psychics on now. Nope. That good old Derek who Derek Cora,
see him live.
He was a crack, like blood. He used to see. It was just so there was a vibe about him, and I was just like, I don't know whether you're a dick or that's just you.
You know Mary loves dick. Oh. Remember that? Mary loves dick.
I remember one of the episodes. Like it got us like not just the ghost, but it got us obsessed with like the witch side as well. It was the Pendle Hill Halloween special. It was over the 3 nights. That was like say. Even again, not saying if it is put on or how much is staged, not, but as an entertaining show, that was absolutely really well done, because the build up throughout the episode, like how they were getting followed and different witches, and I know some of it might be guesswork getting the names and how when the historians were finding the names for like say the Dendyke family and stuff like that, and what happened and how they were cursed and so on. It's a place I've always wanted to visit as well. Go to the Pendle Hills.
What?
My friend was there the other week at Pendle.
All right. Was it one of the tours?
Yeah.
Cool.
Which is it was canny.
They didn't. That story though of like again, you don't know what's real and what's not, like what's staged and what's not. But the Pendleton witches spirits followed them for a long time. It wasn't just there. They had encounters in other episodes.
Yeah.
With that them spirits that followed them. But the ones that they do now, there's no medium, there's no skeptic there, there's nobody who tells them the history of the place. They're literally just put into it. They did one at Eden Castle. No, not Eden Castle. Eden Camp, sorry. Eden Camp. Absolutely phenomenal episode. Some of the stuff in there you can't explain. Like Stuart and Carl are in this room that's like, it's almost like Beamish. Where it's like staged houses and stuff like that.
Right.
Of like
what it would have been. Was it the army camp? Was it like an army camp?
Yeah. I had like a World War II history army camp, but they had like staged houses, like for walking around and such. And there was a bike just on the side of the wall. There is no explanation as to how that bike then shoots that way and then falls over. Like literally that way, and you see it all on camera. They don't point it at themselves this time. Do you know when they used to hear a bang, they would point the camera at themselves? Don't do that anymore. It's like they're genuinely looking now, because I think about a couple of years ago, they actually got, for the first time on camera, an actual entity, not an orb, an actual physical. You can see it on YouTube, walking person.
All right.
And I think since then, they're like, oh shit, we've finally done it. After 20 years, we've cracked it.
Well, I think
that's why.
I think the one episode that did, I know, like say, talking about geek culture, like Jump the Shark, was the one where they done was it the Privet Drive, the most haunted house in the world in England apparently. But when they were doing the filming, it was
Privet Drive is Harry Potter.
No.
I was like.
Possibly, it might not be in Privet Drive, but it was.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I know what you mean. It's East. Oh, I've watched it not long ago. Is that the one with the knife throwing?
Yeah, that's what I think. When they were going in the room with the couch, and suddenly there was a knife sticking up in the couch, and it went too far. If that makes sense. And think like not just like metal keys were getting flung off. Is it Stuart's head and stuff like that, and they were like. They were falling over and giving themselves bruises, but I can understand why when it goes to that length, it gets its hate, because I know that, like I said, some of the best ones was the Halloween special when there was the most haunted alive.
But they used to do Easter specials as well, not just Halloween. It used to be like bank holiday specials and Easter specials, and like this show was like, it was huge. Like we, like as a family, like we used to settle down to watch this. Like we absolutely loved it.
Wholesome family viewing.
At its best. Get your scare on with Yvette Fielding and them eyes. Her eyes used to annoy the pants out of me when we went into night vision, because I honestly thought like her eye makeup was so heavy. She like it made her eyes look upside down.
I used to laugh though, like say, because when they used to put her in and say, "Oh, we're going to do this with Yvette," but she used to start crying, and we used to say, "Oh, how long is it going to take till Yvette's going to cry?"
What's Yvette?
Surprise. So
she used to put, like, so I know it's a show and it's entertainment value and stuff like that, but it gets to the point where she's going into like, oh, this really scary cellar, or being locked in the coal shed.
There is another one on Most Haunted I watched recently where it's like actually they didn't say the location. They wouldn't say the location because they didn't want people going to it. But just imagine like an old like a working men's club hall. Mm-hmm. Where you had the tables lined up, the chairs and that, and you would have a stage at the front, like for bingo. It was like that. And I swear to Jesus, because I didn't know who else to say to there. I was thinking, the table just flips. Right. Chairs just move, but it's like there's no. But all they were literally doing was setting up the cameras. So it's not a case of they were doing the show and then it was literally as they were setting the cameras up, and it just happens in front of this guy. He's just standing there. He's just a crew member, and the table just goes whoochoo, and he's like, "Eh, this isn't meant to happen until the cameras go on." A really good episode. If you want to watch them, they're available on YouTube. Honestly, I'm not joking. They got better.
No, I think they moved to YouTube because there was problems with the network that didn't want to do like live episodes anymore, and that's what they wanted to do, and that's why I think they've moved to YouTube now to do the later stuff. But to be honest, it's a cheaper way of doing it as well, if you're going to make more money that way. But I always found it was quite interesting the way, and I used to be more into the stories they used to tell as well.
Yeah,
that was always the thing I would like. I know again there was a few elements that that kind of like you thought, wow, this is going far. When like I think Derek Akora said in one episode that he found a ghost of an alien at once, and I was like,
excellent.
Yeah, I was like, yes, really showing credibility in there as well. So.
I went to the Empire. I went to the Empire to see that man live.
Talking about the Empire, I know Kelly Younghorn had a good story about the Empire as well, didn't you? You were telling us the other day.
Aye.
Good little segue there.
You know, that was absolutely seamless. It was seamless. Yeah, because there wasn't. I posted on the thread with the belief that, like, you know, work had totally scuppered my plans and dreams of being on the podcast this evening. So I did actually use a little bit of my research on there. But yeah, I didn't realise. Well, I knew about was it Sid James?
Sid James, yeah, that's like a legend, legend. Is that the right word?
Yeah,
well,
it was.
Because, I mean, obviously, Pooh Sard, he fucking died in Sunderland. You know what I mean? Died on the stage. Everyone was like, it's so funny. It's like, how shit, you know, you're that good, where you're like, laughing at you. So I can just imagine, like, you know, just walk around the Empire and just hearing his fucking dirty laugh. You're like, oh,
there's Sid.
There he is. Oh, boy. Oh. But no, what I found quite interesting was the Vesta Tilly story, because I do believe the bar over the road to the Empire, which is now called Vesta Tilly's, used to be the Black Bull. Am I correct?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, that's spot on.
The fishbowl, fucking mint in there.
Thursday night in there with a fishbowl. Get in.
Because I always used to think, like, oh, Vesta Tilly's, I thought was just like a make of skins or something, you know, Vestas. You know?
Yes.
But when I did some research and I thought, bloody hell, this woman is my fucking spirit animal. Yeah, she like in the 1890s, full on sort of like kind of vaudeville cross-dresser, basically, you know, very controversial at the time, and on further research was like one of the highest grossing like kind of earners of women at that particular time. I was just like, legend. And I don't know why she's chosen to haunt the Empire. I mean, obviously she'll have performed there, but she performed like, you know, kind of UK, and I do believe sort of like, you know, maybe even worldwide. But I just kind of found it very bizarre that the bar over the road is actually named after her.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I was just
It's like, say that, because probably the legends going, it's quite an interesting name though, the Vesta Tilly's. It's quite, it's like theatre, and like it's quite over the top extravagant. But if you ever go in there, you can tell it's not.
But yeah, it's like Yates Mark II, you know what I mean? It's just like a ghost.
No, but it's because I know I have heard a few stories about ghosts in the Empire. I know a lot of people that's worked there and said they have experienced things, especially the higher up you go in the Empire as well, and like say in the stalls or the gallery, there's supposed to be like steps or people crying or laughing to hear, which is always good. I would like to go. I wouldn't mind going in just to experience that and see what's that.
What would you generally do if you heard someone crying and laughing off footsteps and there was nobody there but you? How on earth would you react? Because I know how I'd react.
If they were crying, I'd be like, "You all right?"
Yeah, I have no doubt that you'll try and start a conversation.
Now Now you know inquiry minds, but no, you're research. Unfinished business.
I reckon the Moon's probably experienced this, have you?
I remember working at a place during the summer. It was Northern Counties College in Jesmond. And they did have like a residential baby that used to cry on the third floor, and like loads of people heard it. Like it was a really it was an old building, and it was like it used to be a school for the deaf and dumb. It was like built in the 1800s, and like loads of people heard it. I remember I had to go because it was like 3 floors and where the residential place was as well. And I had to go up and make sure that all the plugs were switched off on the floor, in the next level up. And there was footsteps behind us. I swear to God, there was only me on the floor. There was footsteps behind us, and it sounded like there was somebody in one of the rooms scratching about, and I was just like, do, 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 do. I wasn't hanging about.
I think you've actually made Sam shit herself.
I wasn't expecting it. I am so glad I didn't wear a lot of eye makeup today because it ain't staying on.
It takes a lot to spook me out, and that was a canny spook because there was somebody right behind us as well, and it was just like, nah, I'm having it. So weird.
I have a tendency for fingers in the ears and hands over the eyes. That is generally what I do when I'm scared. In any anything, if I am on a ride or watching the telly, when I'm driving, I will literally put my fingers in my ears and put my hands over my eyes because it's the only way I know. There was two what do you call them? The not squirrels, the shrews. 2 shrews fighting on the road, and they were going in and out of the cars, and I was like, I'm gonna hit them here. So I literally just put my foot on the thingy, put my hands over my eyes, closed my ears, and just drove forward, and then looked behind us, and there was out there.
So instead of the shrews, there was a nice old woman that was on the side of the road.
I literally had my knees. I had my knees on the steering wheel to keep it straight, and I had just because these 2 shrews were fighting, and I didn't want to hit them, and I thought I can't dodge them because they're fighting across the road, so I'm just gonna have to go for it, and I did, and they didn't die. They're all right. I mean, they're probably dead now, but at the time they didn't die.
Yeah, I tend to just laugh inappropriately. I when I get scared, I can see how I was just giggle or try and, as Kelly said earlier, rationalise in my head and say this is me, it's my imagination. But yeah, I probably would do that.
I have a tendency for laughing big style. We went and did Terror in the Trees. I did it twice actually. First time was just hilarious because we all had no idea what we're in for. The second time was the day before my wedding, and it was a surprise. So I had no idea I was going. I just got told, get dressed up and come down your mum's house. So I did, in a nice dress, and then get handed a pair of wellies. And it's like, you're going to Terror in the Trees. And as we were doing it, this big giant 7-foot werewolf stood in front of us and wouldn't let us pass. And I could not stop laughing. And I kept trying to say, please don't tip me over. I've got a really nice dress on. And I couldn't stop laughing. I do when I get scared or nervous, I just laugh. I'll cover my eyes and ears.
I laugh or I act funny. In certain situations, if I'm feeling awkward, I just crack a shitload of jokes. And I remember when I went to Blackpool, you know, that the Passage of Terror, Blackpool, where you're like, and I got in there. I fucking loved it. I was walking through and I was just like, oh, there's Freddy. Oh, there's that fucking doll, Chucky. Yeah. And I'm walking. We're waking on the bed, and it was like, oh, it was beautiful. The set was absolutely gorgeous. It was her room. She's on the bed like that, and everyone's gone, and I was like, your mother sells cakes in hell. And her head just lifted up, and she just looked at us, and I was like, Yari, bitch! And then she started all this on the bed. I was just like, booyah! I was waiting for that. I was just buzzing. I was just like,
yeah.
in a film, and as I say, I mean, it was scary, but I was just like overcome with like pure rapturous joy that I was like actually in it. And was it at the end? It was like, you know, freaking that Leatherface, freaking cheers.
Yes.
Got the picture at the end of everyone running out. You just see me walk on.
I'm so happy to be here.
Everyone else is running. I remember the lad who I used to go out with, who was like an Enid Blyton character, just ran out going, "Oh, jinkies!" And I'm like,
I dragged my in-laws into the York dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the York ones. I begged my in-laws to go and do the York dungeons with us, and obviously my husband, and I was terrified. I had my husband here, there. I literally just dragged him everywhere. When we sat down on a seat just to get a presentation, I sat on his knee. I was like, I'm not having anything touch us. And we're in this dark room, and this like witch character's like kicking off at the front. And all of a sudden the room goes dark and a little light appears out of nowhere. And all I hear is, "Andy Carroll, is that you?" Bloody aunt's cousin standing right next to us. I generally shit myself. My mother-in-law trying to take on this Viking, like, because she was proving that she's not scared of him. She just kept like moving closer to him, and he's like trying to be intimidating, whereas he ended up getting more scared of her. And then I had to stand in front of the judge, and he was like, "What's your name?" And I was get Sam, and he was like, "Where are you from?" And I was get, "Anth, where we're from again?" So
It always makes
I
us
get nervous and laugh.
It always makes us a little bit jealous as well, because I know, like I say, Sunderland's got its history, but like when you go to like some of the cities like York and Edinburgh, and there's so much like history, especially when it comes to, like I say, ghost stories and stuff like that, because Edinburgh is a brilliant city to go to, especially if you go into the vaults and go underground, like St Mary's Close. It's just like you can't help but get sucked in by the stories and like the feel of the place, because you know bad shit did happen, and it's just got like that oozing out of it. It's like that type of element's always quite interesting. I remember going to Dublin as well, and going on a ghost bus tour over in Dublin, and they had, like, say, all the stories and the rich stories in Dublin, like from Molly Malone, like I can't remember, like I said, taking you past like Bram Stoker studied and stuff like that. Everything was just done really well, where we don't really get that here. I know we've got like the card lad of Hilton and Hilton Castle, which again, if you go to Hilton Castle, and as you,
she's got some. Look, you know what? I'm actually really interested, because as much as, yes, as my sister keeps pointing out, I am from Sunderland. I am Hortonley Spring is where I've lived and been sheltered in. So I don't really know Sunderland very well. So don't know the history very well. So I am so excited to know more about this.
Talking of like kind of stories and stuff like that, I mean, when I was younger, my dad, we used to walk from Pennywell to Downhill, which is quite a hefty walk, because we could only afford the bus going back. We used to go to Nana's, we used to walk to Downhill, and we used to go past Hilton Castle. We always used to say, "Oh, can you see the card lad?" And I'm like, "There he is!" Couldn't see anything. I was just like, "Oh, there he is!" So it's something that like really resonates from when I was a child, because we always used to walk past. And I remember when I was younger, there was a particular time where you were allowed in, but then that stopped, and then it was kind of like, my dad used to like throw me over the wall, and we used to walk around it and try and hunt for the card lad, for the crack. But I know I always, and but I was about like 6 or 7, and on my Fisher Price roller skates, you know, just like meandering around the freaking Hilton Castle, you know, going ooh. But another thing that like really resonates with us is Mowbray Park, the monument of
Victoria Hall. Was it the Victoria Hall? Yeah.
I think,
that, do you know what? I stand in front of that, and I don't know if it's because I'm a pure empath. I get shivers and stuff in like strange places and stuff, and I feel like, you know, overwhelmed. And every time I go near that statue, I feel physically sick.
What are you talking about?
Oh my God, this story. I mean, I've got that written down. but I'll do it from the top of my head. It was a story where it was Christmas, I do believe, and it was just like they were giving like presents out, and was it
presents, toys and stuff or whatever.
and was fire?
It was a crush. All the kids got crushed because what they'd done was one of the fires, not the fire escapes, but a set of the doors was locked, and they should have. And all the kids stampeded down the stairs, and just hundreds of them got like there's 100 and odd got squashed.
Yeah. Because I wasn't sure whether there was a fire and people ran, but I think I'm just thinking curry, but you know.
No, they ran to get the toys and just started excited, and just loads of them just got crushed.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's
Wow,
when
I've never heard.
if you can see that, I feel like really overwhelmed by sadness, and it just it makes me like pure shiver, and I just think what's like thinking in park, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh God.
Do you know the YMCA and stuff? That's there's loads of like ghostly activity in there, and I don't know if it's attached to that because it used to be next door, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that whole area is like kind of renowned for like activity.
Like
I know they've done a few. I know there's been a few paranormal activities at the YMCA. I think a few like ghost hunts and stuff used to take place there. But yeah, I didn't know about that story. That's new to me. I knew about the Card Lad. I know the Card Lad. If my history, if I can remember from like learning in school, it was basically a stable boy that fell asleep, and his owner got annoyed, stabbed him with a pitchfork, and threw him in the pond. And that's where his body was laid, and his body was supposed to be found, or no, his remains was found. I don't know how many years ago, but he never used to haunt the main building. He used to walk round it, and the little bit next to it, I don't know what it's called. He used to go in there a lot, but that's where the ghost used to be. He used to walk around the building rather than, because he was never, as a human, he was never a human. Sorry, as a live boy, he was meant to be never allowed in the main building. So as a ghost, he stayed to the rules. Apparently, that was what I heard.
Well, apparently he didn't stay to them well enough because he ended up getting stabbed for them. What an extreme measure to wake somebody up, or just stab him. I used to live in Hilton Castle. Yeah. I never heard anything like that.
Yeah, he stabbed him because he was asleep on the job. But
bloody hell.
Been a couple of theories, because was it stable boy Robert Skelton? This was in the 1500s. Check me out, I'm reading a bit of my notes. So the guy at the time, Baron Robert Hilton, this idea that he was sleeping instead of working, apparently the Baron ordered him to prep his horse for a very important journey, and he overslept, so he killed him with a pitchfork.
Why not?
But rumours of kind of like he decapitated him as well, because it is said that when he has been seen, he's got no head, or he's carrying his head. There was another rumour which I don't think like kind of holds up this idea that Robert was courting the Baron's daughter. So obviously the Baron disapproved of this, and the murder occurred. So it's this idea, rumour, that his head was cut off. Because I mean, obviously 1500s, you know, things are a little bit sketchy at best, but there was this idea of either pitchfork or head cut off, and the body was put in a well or a deep lake. Was it a few months later, the body was found in this lake, but the Baron had an alibi because he didn't get charged with it. And a farm worker supported his alibi, saying that a heavy tool actually fell on Robert Skelton, but that still doesn't explain why they thought, oh, let's stick him in a lake. You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah.
This is crazy. I've never heard any of this.
But so apparently, the heavy tool fell on Skelton. The Baron attended the wounds, but it doesn't explain why they decided to put the body in a lake. So the Baron was actually pardoned, fully pardoned by the state in like 1609, so posthumously. But let me turn my page. So why is he the Card Lad?
What? I have no idea.
Maiden cult, literally, hippie, brass monkeys. One of his first sightings, when the castle was still in use, he appeared to one of the cooks in the nip.
Right.
See, it was card. Not surprised, Pet. You've got no clothes.
Bless him. So he was a proper northern ghost as well.
God. But obviously, I've flung in a lake, probably is in the name under his card. But there was reports of him carrying a head under his arm, which kind of puts forward the decapitation. But you probably decapitate someone with a pitchfork. Haven't tried it. Not planning on it. But what is it? A little bugger. If the kitchen was tidy, he'd wreck the joint. Yeah. But if the kitchen was untidy, he'd clean it. Right. So the staff used to leave it dirty, and he used to sort it out for them. Mm-hmm. So almost like poltergeist activity. So we've got the rumour. Right, I do not. I think this is just a big old lie, but I wrote it down because I pissed myself laughing. Rumour of when he was bored, he would sail the Hilton ferry and strand the passengers in the middle of the river. Just like one little poltergeist. Give me. I'm going to pretend to be a ferryman. Get these passengers on the ferry. Get them in the middle, and then go. Gone.
I love how say when these stories because local folklore and local tales it gets stretched to the ninth degree. I didn't hear about the furry part of the story. That
so glad I did though.
But bless. I'm trying to think of any other big names because I know the Card Lad, but I don't think there's any other than the one that is mentioned about Mowbray Park because that one thing I know there was rumours about the old Washington airfield. The air museum was meant to be haunted. Yeah. But again, I don't know too much about that. That's just
me neither.
Isis Pub has got a connection with Cotton.
Yeah. Mary Ann Cotton.
Yeah.
I live on a street.
Really?
Lived in South Hetton where she lived in South Hetton was near where I used to live.
Oh, yeah. I'm interested to hear about that, Kelly.
As well. Tunnels what goes down to the river, underneath. Get access. I think was it two of the victims were they found there or something, or did they get buried there? I'm not sure. But there's definitely some kind of connection. We done a seance there on Halloween upstairs in the ISIS, and there was a few things going on,
right.
Stuff and whispering noises and things like that. There was quite a few of us, so the energy was really good.
Yeah.
Picking up vibes and things, yeah.
I remember a few years ago I was proper jealous. You and I think it was Jill booked up the Beamish one. The Beamish seance.
Victorian seance thing. Yeah. It was really good. I mean, if he's getting an opportunity to go, it was fab, but it was more like how the Victorians used to do the seances and how they would manipulate the audience and do not magic tricks, but they would manipulate to get things from them. And it was very clever how he done it. It was like a whole experience. It was definitely worth it. It was good. It was good. We were the only ones who kind of half fancy dressed as well, and everybody else was just in normal clothes.
That's amazing.
We were all seance ready, dressing up as, but never mind.
And freaking bloody hoodies and shit, and you're in your bustles.
I was going to say I wouldn't expect anything less from Kelly. If you've noticed any of her Facebook when she posts on Facebook with previous Halloween outfits, she does give pretty much anyone a run for the money.
Did
I tell you about when I went to Salem? I was going to dress up as like a Victorian, and I couldn't fit into my dress.
Oh no!
Oh my god! So I guess I'm not dressing up this Halloween. I was good.
So, Kelly, let's talk about Salem for a second. How was it? What did you do? Did you do any of the ghosty? What did you just tell us all about it?
It was amazing. I think if you get an experience, a chance to do it, I would definitely go for the experience. It's Halloween Town. Everything about it, and it is when you see it on the movies, that is Salem essentially. I mean, I would think even if you went like any time of the year, it'd still have that kind of
Yeah.
autumn to it.
I follow a lot of people who live there, and it doesn't change. Nothing
Nah.
changes, and I'm like, so you could literally plan your holiday at any time of the year,
And
and
still-
you're still going to get that Halloween experience.
You'll get that vibe with it. But we done all sorts when we went. I went with my two friends, and like we like went to Salem on the actual Halloween night and stuff, and that they do like parades and everything as well. I was a bit gutted because they did have like the giant Ouija board the weekend before we got there, and they took it away for Halloween. I thought it was just really bizarre. So that was on like the Salem Common. So everyone like makes an effort with like the fancy dress and that as well. Everybody's just like dressed up, and you can see it's like proper, like, you know, when you go to Comic Cons and people put the effort in. It's like style, like that level.
Yeah.
It's not say that it's not the cottage shit where it's just like, you know, the way, because I mean Halloween is just so Americanized now. It's just and it makes me quite sad because it is just, I mean, it's fun for the bands, don't get me wrong, but it's just, I mean, I remember when I was a band getting dressed up in a fucking bin liner with me turn
Go in the dark nails and that.
Yeah.
doors and that, you know, absolute class. Whereas now it's just, I do find it's a little bit over the top, but and kind of it's lost its like actual
It's
Whereas-
charm.
yeah, exactly. Whereas with Salem, it's just like it's still got that sort of almost like reverence to what it actually stands for and means, as opposed to, you know, tweets to this, to that, and the, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the kind
I
of,
think it's the
totally get you.
authenticity. I think the authenticity
Yes.
reigns through. I think that would be the word I would use. Like even like looking at trees and seeing like brown leaves falling in Salem would be a simple thing. Like
Yeah.
and like seeing. I know it sounds weird seeing girls dressed in black. Saying on like you do the meme on Wednesdays we wear black, but it's like in Salem they always wear black.
It's good to like, I'm like glad I done my research on where to go and stuff, because like before I went, I got this book, I can't remember what it was called off the top of my head. And it was about some guy's experience. He moved there for a month in Salem and he wrote about it, like where to go and stuff. So like the people who were trialed and stuff didn't live in Salem. They just got home in Salem. So they lived in a place like it's Old Town Salem, which is called Danvers now. So if you go there, it's like you can visit the parsonage and stuff where it first started. It's just ruins basically. It's tucked away behind these houses. You wouldn't even know it was there. And then they've got like this big massive memorial as well with everybody's names on and things like that. We went to Rebecca Nurse's homestead as well, which is still like you would think it just came from like the 1600s.
Wow.
It looks so it's got like the original house where she lived in, which was like a small little homestead. But over the years, our family built onto it, so it's a bit bigger than what it is. And like it's got like quite a plot of land and stuff. And you go down, there's the graveyard as well. So there's a couple of people there and stuff from the witch trials, because apparently I can't remember who it was now, but I know some bodies went missing and they never went back to the families because they wouldn't discuss where they went.
Right.
Yeah, because it would mean.
So it was interesting, like when we went a few of the talks and stuff, like the Salem Witch Museum does like a big talk about it and things, and you get to know like things like you can't just read like generically in the books and stuff. They give you more information, and they tell you a lot about how they think it was for money. A lot of it was to do with money.
God, yeah.
100%. On American history, it's probably one of the biggest black marks that will be there and it'll always be there. It's good that it is represented in a way.
And exactly, this is a lot of people diss Salem for the fact that they are constantly reminding America of how bad they were. I love the fact that they are constantly reminding America of the shitstorm they created there. I absolutely love it. Did you go to the Church of Satan?
No, I didn't have time.
Oh my God.
What? You don't have time? Just Salem?
Because they wouldn't be converting her, she would be converting them. That would be the difference with Miss Moon.
That didn't get a chance to go, but like I'm gonna go back, so like I'll go next time. Definitely
we'll have to arrange a nerdy up north trip there.
Don't even joke, Paul. Don't even joke.
was honestly like it was really reasonably priced to get there. I thought it would have been really expensive, and it wasn't at all. I think I got return flights to Boston for something like 300 quid, if that.
What? That's crazy. My Los Angeles flights are going to cost a lot more than that.
Especially now as well. So yeah.
It was not we went with. We had to fly from Luton, but it was just.
Oh, that wouldn't bother us.
Definitely doable, like.
But look at Kelly Younghorn's face. She's like, I'm planning this now.
Kelly's like got a notebook like somewhere and a pen, and she's like making notes.
I might be
I don't know what they're like at the minute. Fabulous as well. There's a lot of history there. They do like ghost tours, and then you've got like serial killer tours and stuff there for like the Boston Strike. Like,
yeah. Wow.
Definitely worth.
It is on my bucket list of one of the things I know. I've said I want to go to Salem, and Nicole wants to go to Old Orleans as well. So I think that would be like quite a interesting one as well.
Definitely, Day of the Dead and stuff. Definitely.
Yeah, the South is definitely on our list of places we want to go. On places me and my husband can agree to go on. That is.
It's quite interesting, like I say, talking about all the different tales and experiences. I know with ourselves, we normally, like say, especially on the podcast, it's more to do. We normally talk about like what we've seen on the screen, so it's quite interesting getting these takes of it as well. But for me as well, I think some of the more recent things with ghosts has been probably the more interesting ones I've seen, especially with the Netflix TV shows. House on Haunted Hill and the House on Haunting of Haunting Hill House, sorry, and the Haunting of
Blythe
Manor were absolutely brilliant ghost stories. Sorry, what was that, Kelly?
The Haunted Hill House, the book.
I've got the book. I could not get into it. And probably because I watched the series and I'm trying to marry the two together, and it's not working. No, and I can't seem to separate myself from it. So I've struggled.
I'm always the printed page first, and then
other way around.
Approach the movie. I did that with a little bit unrelated. I did that with The Green Mile. The book is just
phenomenal.
Then you can actually smell Delacroix flesh.
Honestly, it's an experience that reading The Green Mile was was an absolute moment for us. It's a fantastic read. I didn't realize, I'm sorry to go off the beaten track here, but I did not realize that it was it wasn't a book. It was chapters they used to put into a newspaper.
Yeah.
You used to literally just put chapters in, and I was like, this masterpiece used to just sit in a newspaper, and you would have to wait for the next issue for the next chapter. Like, that's mental to us. Sorry, that was just someone who could appreciate what I was talking about.
That's fine. Like I say, with these ones, like it's always good to go go off topic. It's always fine. I think we'll have to be a bit more careful when we do the charity one, though.
Oh my God, yeah, we're going to have to be so strict. Right, what do you want to talk about? This is right. We're going to go from A, B, and C, D. There you go.
Yeah. What did you enjoy the Netflix shows? Because I know, like I said, the second one got a lot of mixed reviews.
I thought, Kelly.
You know what? It's just I'm old school. When I was thinking about kind of like my sort of because I mean, love ghosts, really interested in the supernatural and stuff, but you cannot beat the kind of the original sort of like tropes of it. And I haven't got into the Haunting of Hill Manor or Blythe House. I don't know whether it's because I'm a lazy twat and anything that's kind of like series, I need to kind of sit and like be like, right, I need to be invested in this, and I haven't got time at the minute to be invested. What with having like a feral child, feral husband, and feral dogs, and the thing is, dogs want like certain things on the TV. Sudden movements, they bark. A fellow dog, they bark. A person who's walking on all fours, they bark. So I'm really limited in what I can watch when I have in my life.
Oh no, yeah.
So I have like kind of watched bits and bobs, but when I was reflecting on like doing this podcast and stuff, and I was thinking, you know, what ghosts like movies have really like on us. You got to tap the piss. Don't give a shit. Ghost.
Exactly.
Ghost.
Swayze was a hot ghost.
No, not talking about hot ghost. I'm talking about one of my earliest memories as a child watching this is the fucking shadow creatures.
Oh.
Yes.
Jesus wept. Right? They were fucking petrifying.
Yeah, they were.
Willie
But you know what-
Lopez.
But you know who was the best thing in that film though? Whoopi Goldberg, by far. She was absolutely amazing in that film.
Do you know he wouldn't do that movie unless she was in it. It wasn't happening.
Good egg, because I
Yeah.
swear it would have been shit without her. Because
He literally stood his ground.
Mhm.
He knew exactly who he was. He knew exactly what money was on him to do this. And he said, I'm not doing it unless she's involved in it. And good on him. But I can't watch that film. And it's not because it's a terrible film. It's a brilliant film. The actual story of it breaks my heart. Like, I feel like I'm going to cry talking about it because it's awful. The idea of not just losing your partner, having them back for a bit, and then they're gone again. It's awful. I don't like it.
Well, in regards to just kind of like the ghosty bits, because I mean, obviously it's a romance and it's not everyone's fucking cup of tea. I do understand that, but I was kind of thinking of like the sort of the ghost elements within. So as I say, the shadow creatures were absolutely petrifying. Oh my sweet Jesus! When I was little, I used to have to fast forward it because I was like, oh my god! And what was it bloody the subway ghost?
Yes, he was scary.
Yes.
He was quite.
Vincent Schiavelli.
Yeah, when he was screaming, saying, "You can't, you shouldn't be here." Yeah.
Jesus, but when I was like, because he was something that like really interested us because he was crackers, but he held kind of like that idea of manipulating, objects around, and I thought that was quite key, because obviously, poltergeist movement, and you just imagine if it was like a really like a big effort to obviously kind of manipulate something in the living world.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean?
100%. Supernatural ripped it off in a few seasons as well. When they become ghosts, when the many times they died, and Sam and Dean gets brought back, but they have to learn how to manipulate, and a little kid ghost teaches them how to move stuff around. But if that was probably the first time we saw that element in the film Ghost. So.
And like these little backstory, because you're thinking he's the subway ghost and he's living on the trains, making out with people's shoulders, like, oh, what's on the news today? I'll just have a look at you. And then he sees a ghost and he's like, my train, get off. And then he kind of mellows out, but then he makes the mistake while Swayze asking him how he dies, and he just goes absolutely saying, I was pushed. Leave me, and then he used to petrify us when he screams, "Leave me alone!" And then he jumps into the moving.
Yeah.
In that, it must be less than 5-10 minutes. You've got like a character that kind of you see created. You see a backstory of this idea that probably wasn't pushed. The idea of like suicide. Maybe that's why he's always living on the trains. And do you know what? My heart used to go out to him.
No, 100%. I think that's
it
why.
does now.
I think that's why the ghost element does hit home for a lot of people, because it is grounded in reality a lot more than other ghosts, like than vampires, werewolves and stuff. I know there's always that kind of tropes, but with ghosts, there's almost an element of
Heartbreak.
Heartbreak and realism, especially like say, and a good shout with Ghost. Like I say, that's one of the ones I did actually think about over the few days. Like when you think about ghost films, it is one of the ones that does get missed because it is meant as a romantic film rather than horror film.
It's. I mean, I wouldn't cast horror, but it gets a lot of shit now. In now at times because it is a romantic comedy that does have its moments, but for its time. And for the story's fantastic. It's really heartbreaking. Like as an adult now looking at it with I've got my husband and everything, and the idea of losing him, and then getting a chance to reconnect again, but then it to be taken away from us, that wretches, it honestly breaks us. I don't like things like that.
I think exactly what you were saying there, it's the realism, because I mean, especially with my job, I mean, death is I work in a care home. I mean, I see people end of life. I unfortunately kind of am around when, you know, people pass away and things. And do you know what? Something that happens every day of life, yet is just so unknown. Like what happens after? Does anything happen after? And that fear of like, oh my,
that's always going to be the question that we'll never answer until. It's sad to say, but yeah, I think that's the thing that I think everyone's greatest fear is the same when it comes down to it, and we always want, like say, that answered. But yeah, it is quite poignant to pick there, though, Kelly. What I was going to ask as well, because that was a great shout with Ghost. I was going to say move over to the other Kelly Moon. What would you say would be your standout horror ghost film or ghost point?
I just love like ghost stuff. Anything what's a bit creepy, and I think it's harder now. I think like the only thing what comes close to like more modern movies is the Conjuring movies.
Yeah,
like elements like the old school ghost, like that creep factor. I mean, one of my probably the earlier memory, it was watching The Fog with my mum, and my dad was away, and was watching The Fog, and the two of us were terrified because it was foggy outside as well.
Wow, perfect timing.
There was a little tiny
summer's day.
and there was a little gap in the curtains, but you could see like that it was foggy outside, and me and my mum were like, "You go and close it." Like,
you go close it.
I'm not leaving the sofa.
At the time, the two of us sitting on the sofa, like, "No, I'm not closing it." Like, I just imagine. Like, I was closing the thing, but I love that creepiness, and it was like just the atmosphere with that was just fab. You couldn't have picked it like that memory.
Yeah. No, I think that's what takes you back as well, as the memories of it as well. That kind of, because you can relate it. What about you, Sam? What would you say? Because I've got an idea which one you're going to go for, but I might be wrong.
Go on then.
Poltergeist.
Yeah. I was because I've talked about Poltergeist before. I was actually going to, and this is a film I've never mentioned on here before, and I only watched it a couple of months ago. It's from, oh my gosh, I want to say it's from the 80s, but I could be wrong. It could be 70s. The Changeling.
Right.
Yeah. So I loved this from start to finish. It's a ghost story, murder mystery. The chair, the ball, more like.
Fucking chair. It's the chair. The chair freaks the shit out of us. I've never been
what though?
Furniture.
Scary Movie totally ruined it though, because that ball is obviously in Scary Movie, and I'm like peeing my pants laughing when I shouldn't be. That's not funny. Like, this is not a funny moment, but I absolutely adored it. It was a proper murder mystery with a ghost element, and it was such an amazing story. And the guy who was the main actor, I can't remember his name, was just phenomenal. It's always been on my list to watch, and Prime put it up. It's brilliant, excellent.
Is that the ghost bumping in there?
Did you hear that?
I heard a little bang.
I just didn't hear that. I knocked my keyboard and all I heard was bring. Whoopsies. But yeah, the Changeling, obviously Poltergeist, unreal. Like, it's unreal, and everything that goes with Poltergeist as well. Like, you know, all the stories of behind the scenes and on the scenes, and then the actors who, you know, perished after the scenes. And it's so good. But because I hadn't
as well, what was attached, like all the suspicious
deaths and stuff. Yeah, there was a lot of
Was it the camera like fell down and killed? Was it the Poltergeist on the camera fell down?
No. So Poltergeist, you've got Dominique Dunn, the sister with the dark hair. She got murdered. You've got Heather O'Rourke.
The one with blonde hair.
Heather O'Rourke's the one with blonde hair. Carol Ann. She died of something that could have been she was ill on Poltergeist 3. She was like taking steroids, and you could see like her face was puffing out. She died of sepsis, I think, but she literally, it was gallbladder issues. Like, it was so, like, could have been solved, but she was so misdiagnosed. And then she passed away at such a young age. The priest from the second one, he died. I think he had cancer. But also the guy from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, he passed away. But this happened like after the film. Like, it didn't happen on the film, it happened after. But because they're part of it, and the stories that came around, like, you know, the graveyard, the bones and everything, the skeletons are all real.
Yeah, I heard that the skeletons was real, what they used from in the movie. That's quite like a big one. But
recycling, man. Why make skeletons when you got them?
Apparently, it's quite common in films, like especially in horrors. If they use like the basic form of like some skeletons and build onto them as well. So it's quite a common act apparently, which I've read about, which is.
I've read a lot of books recently from a woman who works and owns her own mortuary in America, and it does not surprise me that Americans have easy accessibility to the dead. Does not surprise me in the slightest, especially after reading her book. Their funeral industry is nothing like ours in the slightest, so it doesn't surprise us at all. Caitlin Doherty, please go and read our books. Fantastic lady.
Will do.
Mine's probably a little bit, well, not modern. Like I say, me and Nick's just been watching them. I know the sequels to it kind of took it away what it was, because the first one I thought was, for the effects and how it was filmed, was done perfectly, especially for was Paranormal Activity. The first one.
I love them.
Like, I know the sequels that came out. I know there's a new one coming out on Halloween on streaming. I think it's coming out in America. So
really?
But it's going back to showing the Amish times and stuff. But just the little effects, like the little movement, like the speeding up of the camera, having to stand over the bed for hours, like the slow possession aspect. And I know, like say, you're going from like ghosts to like poltergeists, then to demons as well, all the different aspects that do lead into it. But I just think it was done so well, but so cleverly as well, because in essence it's a two-person film, that you captivate, and the two people you're watching are really irritating at times. Like, she's just annoying when she talks, and he, like, his actions isn't normal. Like, you wouldn't be going on and like, in me in a horror film, because I've probably watched that many, I wouldn't do the same things. Like, I'll be like, right, shit, get the fuck out of here, get out of Dodge, burn the house down and burn everything with it.
Get out of Dodge.
But it's just creepy, and the aspects you think, because there's even scenes where nothing happens, but you're staring at it like for a couple of minutes, looking for something to happen, and and that's the element I do like, because it's the bits where you're not seeing it and nothing happens.
Yeah, you know something's not right, because even like when nothing happens, you've still got that the atmosphere. And what I loved about Paranormal Activity, it was like day and night, and it was like lush, where the realism was back, you know, like everyday stuff life, where they're like, oh, look at what was thingy on this camera, and they're like, oh yeah, and they're just like kind of trying to rationalize, trying to say, oh, well, it could be this, it could be that, and then you just know when it's going to be night, you're like, oh my god, what the fuck is going to happen? Ooh, and it's just like the camera's all set up, and you're just like, and you know, progressively, just like the energy that this entity gets is, you know, getting like more, and then they're like, you know, kind of doing their sort of investigation during the day, trying to make sense of it, and then waiting for night to see what else happens. It's just like, it had me literally on edge. But
that's the thing though, I think, with the bedtime scenes as well, because that's when you're most vulnerable. And that's again where you're supposed to be relaxed, where you're supposed to be the more safe, but you're not. It's where the things come out and go bump in the night, shall we say. But that's
I don't know, it depends if you've got 3 cats or not, like.
I've got two of them, and if I know where they are and then I hear something, then I'm freaked out. But if I can't see them, it's always them who did it. But I am the kind of person who can actually scare myself quite easy. The other night, Anton closed, and I am lying in bed, and I've got my foot outside the bed, and I'm like, what would you do if someone walked over and just touched your foot right now? Like, what would you do? And then it took us hours to convince myself that nobody was actually going to do it. I did it all myself. I kept bringing my foot closer in the middle of the bed, and then I would end up, because I'm really tall, end up on the other side of the bed, my foot, and I was like, what happens if the catch is there? And I did this for hours.
Respect, you've all got cats. I'm the talking dog lady, so I'm surprised because my dogs are so dumb. You hear it before anything happens, like,
hey, mama!
But again, it's funny you're talking about the animals, because that's one of the biggest tropes in type of horror or ghost films. When you know something's not right, when the animals start acting weird, or start like the dogs start barking, or the cats go.
Like Beatrice last night, who we've got what's it, like a board thing, or what's the board called on the floor? Like I don't know what it's called, but it's right next to the wall, and she's like literally standing on it, nose to nose with the wall, and going her ends.
Yeah.
Like meowing constantly, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then all of a sudden she'll stop and then look up in the corner. What are you looking at? Like, what are you looking at? This went on for ages last night.
Sam, you know who to call.
So yeah, cats can be freaky. Baxter isn't, because he's so dumb. Like, my boy cat is incredibly dumb, so there's no way I'm getting spooked. He's honestly he's gorgeous, and I love him, and he's my boy, but he's just so dumb.
Yes. But yeah, like, I'm trying to think of other things. Like, I know with Ghost, like, they've went through the comedy elements. Like, as I mentioned, the Casper one of my favorite ghost type films as well. I think I've talked about in a previous podcast was Michael J. Fox in The Frighteners as well. Done in a way which, again, I don't think it was got its credit in its day. I think it was very before its time, because it was quite dark in its humor as well. I think not many audience knew how to take it, but it was quite an interesting take on that type of genre as well.
Yeah, I just don't think they got Peter Jackson at the time. Like, look at from where he came from into The Frighteners, which is almost like it's Hollywoodish, isn't it? It's not. It's like it's got the money behind it, not like what he had previously. So I don't think they got Peter Jackson, and then obviously, boom, he comes in with Lord of the Rings, and you totally get him then. But Frighteners, I don't think they understood him. Yeah,
but I don't think he would have got Lord of the Rings if it wasn't for Frighteners, because I think that was him playing about with the effects at the time, learning how to what you can do, and that's where that led up to. But yeah, I think it's one of them gems of the films that does go unnoticed for quite a bit, especially for how dark it is as well, especially like with the serial killer and the twist. But before we wrap up and everything, there's one ghost film we haven't mentioned, and it's the second highest grossing horror film ever made. The Sixth Sense. It's one of the biggest twists ever known in a film, but it is.
Look at that big smile.
I don't think it does get recognised as a horror film that much, because it is, like I say, a bit of a thriller, but there's elements in that, and that is so clever and so well done. And
and I know you were saying your cheeky disclaimer that you're wet at the beginning. I know you're like, these are wet. Do you know what? I stand by the fact that this was in 1999. I went to the picture to see it with my mates. I do believe I went with Helen Wilson. There you go. There's a cheeky shout out for your pet. I went with Helen Wilson, and was it her boyfriend and this other lad who I'm sure she was trying to get us off with, but I didn't like him because he was weird looking. Anyway, went to see this film. Fuck me. I thought it was bloody marvellous. It was just, it really brought, I do think, a new lease of life to the supernatural genre. Nothing like this being done before. The jump scares were genuinely scary. Like that little bloody bird, that was sick. People hanging at school, that split second of seeing them hanging, the dead cyclist. Turning
when she
his
walks
head.
past.
But what I liked about it is what I liked about it as well, it was done so straight as well. There was no tongue in cheek. It was no bullshit. No little winks to the camera. Again, it's one of them films as well. It does lose its energy after you've seen it the first time, because the whole build is to that moment when you find out. And again, if you haven't watched it, spoiler that Bruce Willis is a ghost.
If you haven't watched it, there's something serious.
Somebody ending before I seen it, and I was fuming because I know, like, when I watched the film, I just knew.
Yeah.
You knew?
This was completely ruined. I was just like,
you went through the post-watch vibe with The Sixth Sense, and I wouldn't wish it anyone.
So I knew it, and I knew, but I did enjoy the others. So, like, when the others, I was like, oh, that was my little bit, like, you know, when you get the emotions off Ghost.
Yeah.
That was my Ghost. I was like, oh no.
Amazing show that I forgot on about the others. God, I got goosebumps on the others there, because that genuinely, again, you go in, you don't think of it as a scary horror film, but
as well, where she's like, no, it's got that suspense and the nervousness of her as a mother. The kids can't get out, and you know.
Watch now that I have a child. I was talking about this. I was working with an agency last night, and I went with her tonight, and she's lovely. I'm really actually looking forward to it. And there was a film that was on, and it was I don't know what film it was, but it was a little girl who was going to her mum, and her mum was like, yeah, I don't know who you are, and we're like, we need to turn this off, because we were actually quite, like, it was unnerving for us. I do think I used to be able to, like, you know, read about kind of, you know, child murders and things like that, but mine's totally like flip turn now, and I just kind of can't help but kind of like it to how I would feel if it happened to my child. So I honestly don't think I could actually do this without thinking, you know, and like kind of thinking it to me, and oh god, it's weird.
Yeah, no. But like, see, I'm just remembering the others now, because there was so many good little elements, like clever little tricks, like having the kids being like a disease they're affected by sunlight. That's why they would never close the blinds. And I remember the heartbreak as well of husband coming back for war. Yeah. And that element, and him having to go the next day, but not explaining why. That was one of the ones I did get. I didn't work out that they were all ghosts till the end there as well.
I remember The Sixth Sense. The penny dropped, and I remember going, because I was really child time. I was about 4. Well, how old was I? About 30, and it was when he said they only see what they want to see, and I was like, he's a fucking ghost.
So stupid. He had to see it for me. He had to see it for me to know what was going on. I'm not dumb.
Yeah,
like, I didn't get it.
I think I was that engrossed in the film. I didn't click on for that one.
I was like, I'm sorry. What did you just say? You see what now?
The other family were like their ghosts, weren't there? But they weren't like ghosts in the manner, and like when they changed all the curtains were down and stuff, and she was proper panicking because the curtains were down. It's like, oh god, it's sad. I thought.
No, it was like it was a proper, like the others was a proper Victorian type of horror as well. I know, not similar, but like I did a modern one not too long ago, Crimson Peak with Tom Hiddleston.
Oh, I did not enjoy that.
But
visually, that movie is phenomenal. Like, it's Guillermo del Toro. It's beautiful. But the story was, and the not even Tom Hiddleston could save it. It wasn't great, but beautifully cinematography of it is just it's breathtaking. I think that's what Guillermo's. I can never say his name. I can never say Del Toro's name properly.
No.
It always just comes out Guillermo, and I hate to do it. He's very good at making things look beautiful, and sometimes he gets it right with like Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes.
Nothing bad from start to finish with that.
Oh, Orphanage.
But yeah,
Orphanage.
it's.
Oh.
But yeah, Crimson Peak was a bit of a miss for me, and I've never seen the others.
Oh, so I've just spoiled it for you. Sorry.
I already knew. No, I don't. No. That ship went a long time ago. I already knew. I've just never. Do you know what? It's one of those ones where you just don't think about it. Like you all forgot about it.
I've just I've just got a proper like thing just jumping in my head here. Just I don't know why it's jumping in my head. I was talking to anyone watch a show called Rent a Ghost?
I think my parents do.
Ghost.
I remember Rent a Ghost. That was probably going back to the first experiences of ghosts and stuff. That was probably one of my first.
I've just had a youth. Rent a Ghost. Oh no, I remember Rent a Ghost.
Yeah, it used to be on like BBC Two or something. On because some of the shows we got, there was even a what was the one that used to get shown in schools as well? Ghost Writer as well.
Oh my god, yes, I do remember Rent a Ghost. I've just seen the picture of it.
Yeah, it's Rent a Ghost, and then there used to be Ghost Writer, where they used to solve crimes and a ghost used to write messages for them.
Used to watch that. Yes, Ghost Writer. It was like a black typewriter, and it had like Ghost Writer written on the front. Always reminds us of Ghost Faces on
Supernatural. Oh dear.
Ghost Faces.
I just wanted to say a big thank you for you two for coming on, and like I say, I hope you have enjoyed it as much as we have. Like I know, like I say, when Kelly Younghorn always comes on, we always end up pissing ourselves laughing. It's just
always,
and I think for listeners as well, always watch on YouTube when Kelly's on, because the facial expressions are worth it.
Do you know what? Like, obviously, I've got the most rubber face known to man.
You have the most beautiful smile in the world. So everyone needs to come on and see them beautiful teeth.
Do you know what? Right, talking about my teeth, the reason why they're so beautiful is because I grind them. So that
excellent, great.
So I don't have fangs because I've grown them. I went to the dentist, right, because I have to wear a mouth guard on a night because I'm like...
So getting all these mental images now, so that...
I remember going to the dentist and she was like, do you realise you don't have any fangs because you've ground them down? I was like, oh, well, everyone says my teeth's lovely. And she was like, for £75 per tooth, I can put... I was like, no, I don't want your implants, pet. I am very happy with my abnormally straight teeth. We'll just leave it at that.
And like I say, for Kelly Moon's popping a podcast cherry.
Let's talk about the live stream.
Yes. So again, if you're in the Facebook group, you might well know we are looking to do a charity stream on the 20th of November. It's going to be a Sunday. Me and Sam are going to attempt. Well, we are not going to attempt. We're going to do.
We're not going to attempt. We're going to do it.
A full 12-hour session.
I'm going to have costume changes and everything.
Oh dear. A live stream of the podcast where we were getting 12 different guests, shall we say, one each hour. I know Kelly's going to be one of them as well. So see what mischief she can throw at us this time rather than us.
I may have a little surprise
during
the day.
Cool.
Not gonna confirm it as yet because generally don't know, but may have a little surprise. It's going to be a good day. I'm generally looking forward to this. 12 hours of talking. So glad I'm not at work the next day. So I don't have to do it. I'll just be quiet.
And we are raising money for the kittens. It's a Willow cat rescue or cat.
Yeah,
Willows, that's the one. Sam, like I say, I know Nicole, my wife, used to actually volunteer for them as well in her youth. But yes, so we are going to do like a 12-hour session where it's going to be interesting. Like I say, I have no idea what's going to happen. I'll probably tell a few people to fuck off because I'll get tired and get annoyed.
I don't think you will. I think you're going to have an absolute blast. It's going to be such a fun day. That's amazing.
but yes. I'm glad Kelly could come back on just to do that. That's great. But just to say, before we lose you again, Kelly, I hope you have enjoyed it as well. So thank you for coming on.
I haven't covered half the stuff I had on my list to cover. I've never even talked about Transylvania or anything.
Kelly, we'll have you on, and I'll just do a full Q&A with you, because I could pick your brains forever. We'll get you back on. Don't you worry about that.
Certainly, no, definitely. But again, like I say, I know everyone who's part of this podcast are big members of the Facebook group, and hopefully, like I say, we're trying to grow that. It's getting bigger every day. Like I say, we've had lots of new members today. I don't know how they found us, but it's on, like I say, the name's Nerdy Up North Community on Facebook, on Instagram. Again, find us, the podcast on YouTube. Just search Nerdy Up North. It'll be on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music. And if I can find anywhere else to put it, I'll put it up anywhere I can.
Pop it on there.
But yes, like I say, this podcast has gone exactly the way I thought. I thought it was going to be manic, crazy, fun, all the things. But I've really enjoyed the stories, and again, the local history as well. That's been interesting. I would love to do more, but I know, like I say, everyone else has lives, and I don't think many people will listen to more than 2 hours. So I have to try and keep it short. But thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you two want to say before we finish off?
No, just fab. It's been an absolute blast again. Woohoo!
I just want Kelly sometimes to just sit in the corner of my room and just be like, woohoo! Just get like, honestly, just like this little energy bunny. I absolutely adore you. I really.
When I go on night shift and I come in, I'm like, all right, lasses, how was your shift? And they're like, what the fuck? And then when they come in on shift at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm just like, right, how you doing? Have you chat? And they're like, how are you still functioning after a 12-hour shift? And I was just like, I don't know.
Yes. I don't. And again, say thank you from your partner in crime, Sam, for putting up with us again for another week. So again, going to try and do something a bit different next week. We'll try and see how I'm going to organize it. But yes, so next week the podcast is going to be all about horror. Every aspect, and we're going to try and get as many people involved. I know Kelly Moon, you're possibly going to be coming back next week again. So we'll wrap up now. Like I say, same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you for tuning in.
Stay nerdy, everyone. Bye.
Bye.